Hey everybody. So first of all, I'm in my hotel room and there's so many dust particles floating around in this windowsill. So if you see like little particles floating around, just know that it's just us, guys. It's no one else is here with me that I know of, but I can guarantee you it's dust. I'm looking at it right now. But I really came on here today to make a video because one, I'm not going to even say it's overdue because now that I know myself, I know that I was never meant to be someone that like makes the videos regularly, and I'm not trying to be YouTube famous. Like, I know that I do this solely for my entertainment purposes, and I do this solely because I love to do it. So I think like operating in that makes more sense for me than to force myself to be something that I'm not. And that's kind of what this video is about today. I think that I'm really just gonna start with myself because I'm me. I don't know anyone else's story. I only know my own. And I think that for so long, I had a really deep sense of who I was and what I wanted and what I loved doing, but I was always afraid of doing so because it was not practical. And I didn't really have a lot of examples of, first of all, practicality in my immediate environment as far as like education wise. I do have like some great aunts and stuff who did the whole college thing and, you know, probably got into finance and some other weird stuff. But as far as like my immediate environment, like with my mom, that I didn't have that. Like, even she worked jobs that weren't just like substantials. Like, she's not a doctor, she's not a lawyer, none of that. Anyway, I think that for so long I was allowing myself to operate at a level that was so pleasing to what society said that I should do, that I was depriving myself of like the basic fundamentals that I knew what myself was craving for ultimately. And now I finally feel like I've reached a space of identity that is very much rooted in the things that I want to do, practical or not, that I am a happier person, and that there's so much success that will ultimately come from living your truth. Now, what I mean by like this practical thing is, like, I was in college the first time around when I was 18, and I was going to school. Okay, the AC unit just kicked on something, so you might hear that. I was going to school, and like I said, no immediate examples of any of this. So I'm just going to school because that's like the next thing. I mean, it wasn't like my mom was like forcing me to go, but she also wasn't like, you should go explore the world. So in my head, I'm just like, I'm gonna just go to college. And I went to school, I got good grades. I went to community college first, and I went to university. So I was very much the type to like go to school, come in, come out. Like, I wasn't really into a lot of college stuff like that in my immediate school environment because, I mean, I had came from a community college. By the time I got to university, the people like who were actually in my classes were a little bit like, we were growing up, so they didn't do all the freshman stuff and stuff like that anymore. So I was really the type that just went to class and went home. I didn't have any like school friends like that. Like, I had my people that I was hanging out at school, but then barely. Like, I was always by myself. So I was a scholar in that way because I still made good grades. I was going to do everything, but I did not enjoy it at all. Like, I remember just going to school and coming home for the most part. And I remember when I prayed the prayer of asking God for a change. I had no idea what it would be, but I prayed a prayer every night asking for a change. And so it was obviously this lifestyle now. And I used to look up at planes. Every time planes would fly across the sky, I would always say, take me with you. I would drop anything I was doing, whether I was carrying groceries. I would literally do it. If I was like at a stop sign and I saw it and take me with you, I always did that, but I didn't have any idea what was next. But I had so much hope around that age, like 18, 20, 21. I feel like those are the years where the hope is so high. So that's when this life came into fruition. Shortly after, this was like when I was 21. So I was doing some of this when I was 21. And I still didn't really know what was next. I just knew like, okay, I finally got it out. So I did that for a couple of years, obviously still doing it, still living my best hotel life. And I always knew that I wanted to be a writer and I wanted to write books one day because I really was like into communication. And I'm like, well, it's too late to go to school for journalism. Like that's not going to help anybody. I just like, once again, I still was so stuck on like that practical mindset to where it's like, I'm not going to do anything that's not practical for money. Like I absolutely can't. But just fast forwarding to now, because I really don't want to make this video that long. Like I always had a deep sense of who I am and what I wanted to do, but I was always so afraid to just do it because it wasn't practical. I knew that I wanted my work to be play, because like there are people who can separate work and play. Like obviously people who are doctors, people who are doing like these big shot jobs, like work is work for them, play is play. And I get it, like you're spending all this time getting an education, you're dedicated to it, so like they're like, this is serious. But for me, that was never going to be my route. And I think that trying to force that route on me so much like throughout the past years, and I'm not going to say that society was doing it. I think that I felt pressure just being a human in society, feeling like I had to do that, because once again, my mom was not the type to push me to do anything, which was I guess it was a pro, but it was a con to that as well. Well, I'm not going to say it was a con to that, but it was a super, super pro, because I had the freedom, but I also didn't know anything. Like, what am I going to do if I don't do practical stuff? So people, you know, they're going to separate work and play, but I always knew that the work that I wanted to do, it was going to be play-centered. And I mean, obviously I'm still like where I am, but I slowly see myself navigating to that place because I accepted the call wholeheartedly now. Like I don't have any fear that unpractical things can't make me money. I absolutely can be a writer and make the money that I want. I absolutely can be just do courses like yoga, meditation, breathwork courses, whatever, like all of those creative aspects. I can do something creative and make the money that I want to make. People are doing it every day, so why can't I do it? So why is that like so hard for me to accept that about myself? That's like the basic question here in this video. Why is that so hard to accept the fact that if somebody else is doing, why not you too? And thinking that something is far out of reach will really keep you in a state of it's far out of reach. Like when you think that it's far out of reach, yeah, then it is. And of course, you're going to keep working the shitty job that you absolutely hate when you know that you really want to do this or that. And sometimes like you really just want to do what you love. You're not even really focused on making money out of it. But for me, I knew that speaking was something that I was always talented at. And I knew that I wanted to live a life where I was sharing something, whether it was my experiences with the world, whether it's like lessons that I've learned, things that I did. But I was just so scared of my own voice. Even when I knew that my voice was the very thing that was supposed to be making me money, I was still afraid. And the funny thing is, like, I am in school right now currently, and I'm going to school to be a speech pathologist, which is going to be helping people with speech disorders, whether it's stuttering, whether it's aphasia, maybe it's some developmental delays, maybe some rehabilitation from like a stroke victim who has kind of lost their motor functions when it comes to languages. I'm still going to do that, but I'm 26 years old and I know that that's not going to happen until I'm 30 something. So on the journey to that, why not create something that I absolutely love? Why not focus so much on the unpractical things that I create something beautiful from the ground up? And by the time that I am 30 something, I have this awesome career that I absolutely love as a speech pathologist, because I owe it to myself to complete college. Like, I owe it to myself to really stick this through, because I always try to tell myself like I wasn't the education type, and I still kind of believe that. But because I know that speech pathology is such a booming field, and I know that there's always going to be a need for it, and they need more Black people in the field, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to stick it out. But I'm journeying to that. So why not live a life and create a life that I love while I'm journeying to it? Crickets. There's no answers, because why not? Like, you can't rebuttal that. And I realize that this is my own story, and it takes a really long time to just be this way, I guess. I think it took a really long time. It's funny because everything that I've ever tried to do has failed tremendously because of the lack of confidence, because of the lack of worthiness that was not, because of the lack of worthiness that wasn't behind, that was behind it. I mean, not wasn't behind it. That was behind it. There was so much that I've tried to do throughout the years. Like, I remember at one point, I can't remember the name of this app, but it was an app where you can be a freelancer and you list all of your services. Like, there's people doing graphic design work. There's literally people doing assistant work on there. There's people doing like, kind of not like therapy calls, but kind of like motivational speaking calls. Like, you know, somebody would have in their caption, "We'll talk to you about learning how to be yourself," and stuff like that. Anyway, I signed up on that app. I've used that app for services like logos and stuff. And I also signed up to be a creator on that app. Well, at one point, I signed up to be a creator on that app, and I was going to go into the field of like kind of where it was like the motivational thing, like call me for 10 minutes, pay $10 for 10 minutes, and we can chop it up about this, that, you know, inspiration about life. So I signed up to do that. And first of all, I don't know why I even signed up to do that, because I didn't even believe in myself. So the fact that I didn't even believe myself was going to be the very thing that held me back from actually doing that in the first place and being successful on that. Never got a call. I did get paid only by one person. It's this guy that I've been knowing for years. I met him when I was like a teenager, like 18, 19. And he just always supports. He just was like, he paid for it, act like he was somebody, you know, signing up for it. And then he told me like on Instagram, like, "Hey, that was me. I just wanted to support." That's all. It's like, I just wanted to support, like, you know, and that was that. What other failed endeavors that I did not complete because there was this huge lack of confidence about myself? What else? I made a whole journal. I made a whole kind of like a guided journal, and never released it. Deleted the whole thing, actually. One, because I do believe that I wholeheartedly was doing it from a place that was, it was just too much lack for me. It wasn't confident enough, once again. So I made the whole thing, and I was not confident in this work, and I deleted it. Let's see if I can find one more example of where I was doing things that I absolutely loved and I stopped. All Things Intentional 2020, the most recent escapade. I launched that jewelry business. I think that I really loved making jewelry. I really do. I love jewelry. One day I'm going to get some really nice silver. Like, I refuse to wear silver until it's like really real. For now, I can wear like, you know, the gold plated, you know, I can do that because it just always looks good. I had a jewelry line, All Things Intentional. And I was doing that from a place of lack as well. Like, I was really enjoying it, but I wasn't at like full, wholeheartedly confident in it. So guess what? Within a couple of months, it was booming though. That's the thing. Like, people were supporting it, people were loving it, and it was a really great time. It was weird that it was such a great time to be doing this because it was a pandemic, but people genuinely loved it. And I promoted it on my pole Instagram, and a lot of the pole girls supported me. One of the pole girls, who is really big now, actually, she gets brand deals and everything. At the time, she was just a person who loved pole herself. She supported me. Like, it was just all kind of random people supporting me because of her. Like, she had followers, but it wasn't a lot. So because she supported me and reposted, I had like so many random people in general coming just find me. And I loved it, but I lacked the confidence to follow through with it. And people still to this day ask me about jewelry, and I used to say it with shame, like, oh, I don't do that anymore. I said it with shame, but now I say it just like happily, like I don't do it anymore, but who knows, like I might just do jewelry again one day because I love to do it. Like even if I'm not selling it, I like to do homemade things, and I like to have homemade pieces, and I like to have pieces that nobody else has, that I just like whipped up, found something in my house, thought it was cute, put it on, bam. Nobody's gonna have this because it's really this fabric from it's a piece of fabric that I cut up into a top. So I really just always enjoy being unique in that way. But due to the lack of confidence that I had, so much has failed. But now I'm in a place where I recognize those things as seasons. There are seasons for everything in my life, and nothing was actually really a failed attempt, but just an experience that got me to this moment, to where I am confident, I am beautiful, and I'm bold, and not at the expense of shitting on someone else, not at the expense of thinking that I'm better than someone else, because I still have like a very humble heart about me. But I was so humble in the beginning to where I was insecure. I was so humble in the beginning because I felt like if I did the most, then I'm shitting on other people. But now it's like I'm going to do the most without shitting. I'm doing the most because I genuinely love doing the most. I can promise you that nobody was on my mind when I decided to do the most, like making people feel bad or thinking that I'm better. I just genuinely wanted to like big myself up, because it's like you got to be your biggest cheerleader anyway. So now I don't have any idea if I'm going to obviously continue to make videos like weekly. I know myself, I know this is not me, but I think that I'm most certainly going to continue to drop little random videos like this because they just work, and whoever watches them, you the best, you the realest, you know what's up. And who don't, they're missing out on some really good gems. That's how I take it. I know ultimately that all the people who are supposed to be aligned in my path will always find what I have to say. They'll always find whatever I'm doing, and so and they're going to choose to support it, obviously, because they're supposed to. But now I'm not going to worry about things that are like out of my element, things that I should not be focusing on. I'm not going to worry about forcing myself to do things that are absolutely just not in the way that I'm built. Like, I'm just not, because I'm so unhappy in that. And like, why do we need another unhappy person operating in this world? Like the basis of your core is just unhappy. Like, some people are like that. They're out here, they're living their lives, they're doing things that they absolutely hate. And that's the basis of their core, period. And it's like, I'm not an unhappy person. I'm a happy person who typically has unhappy days. These people who are unhappy and they just don't even know happy days exist. But that's because they're not really controlling the narrative. They're not controlling the narrative. They're not really stepping up to master the narrative. So like, mastering the narrative is like key. Mastering the narrative, creating the narrative, figuring out like what's wrong with the narrative is key, because the narrative that you have been given is not your own until you literally step up and decide, no, I actually don't want this career. No, I actually don't want to wear my hairstyle like this. I actually do want to have a shaved head. I absolutely do want that to be my beauty standard, not like this long, luscious hair. Like, I've seen it all the time where people who have really beautiful, beautiful hair and it's long, and they decide to cut it, and everybody's just like, oh my God, your hair was so beautiful, why did you cut it? Or like, I liked you better with long hair. Or like, that's the narrative that you had made for me. That's not the one that I want to live. So I really just genuinely love seeing people like living their light in that way. And to be honest, I'm just like journeying toward all of that. I cannot wait to just share what I have to offer to the world, because now there's like no holding back. And it's funny because before I go, I can honestly say that I am like coming from a place of the space that I was in, just this message is coming from a place of uncertain. Like, I was just in such a state of lack. I can say that I was in such a state of lack. Horrible with savings, hardly had any funds. And just, I think that I had to be humbled, and I feel like I had hit rock bottom for me. You know, everybody has different rock bottoms. Like, I still got a roof over my head, but, you know, maybe there's some things, you know, I'm telling you things without telling you too much. That was my rock bottom that I hit. I'm not going to say I am in, but I'm literally coming from out of that and pushing forward to do greatness, because that's what I've decided to do in my rock bottom. And I realized that most people who have really great things, people who are successful, the people that people are looking up to nowadays, they literally started doing the thing that they love. They started being successful because they came from a place of brokenness. Whether they didn't have money, whether they were homeless, whether they had lost everything, there was like some type of loss there. And that pushed them to like go full speed with every single thing. And you know, when people tell their stories and they include their story, they include their story of like from rags to riches. Like, this is real. I realize now, like, this is real life. Like, this is where a lot of successful people are bred, because it was literally like some type of, you know, some type of life-changing moment that said, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I can't continue to live this life anymore. And now they're like pushing forward and creating all these better habits, because that's what it's about, creating better habits, that so you can get in the mode of having them stick, so you can change the way you're doing things, So that's where I'm at right now, just really creating better habits and sticking to them this time around, and trying to keep those better eating habits too, because I realize, like, when I'm operating at my lowest, I eat really, really shitty. And that's not going to really do anything for my energy or my brain either, because we all know that shitty food is not helping the brain. But everything is up, because I was down, and there will be down times again, without a doubt. But I really hope that I can learn to appreciate these moments as planting. I call this planting seeds, like. And it's funny because naming everything about me is meant to be so spontaneous, and I have literally been forcing myself to be this super planner. I have been forcing myself to do things that just were not me for so long. Nothing was working out. And because now that I really am paying attention to how I operate in my creativity, in my life, everything is working out so much better. I randomly thought, I knew that I wanted a newsletter. I didn't really have a name for it yet. And then I'm pretty sure like a couple of days before the newsletter was gonna come out, I called it Seeds. The name of the newsletter that I make now is called Seeds, because something about a seed is so beautiful to me. Like, when you look at the seeds of different fruit, some of them have really tiny seeds. Like, the seeds are so tiny that you can hardly grip like, I can't even grip them with these nails. And from those seeds, so much beautiful things grow. So many beautiful things grow. So it's like, if I could just have faith in that beautiful little seed that it's going to do exactly what it's supposed to do, then I can trust that the path is, it's carved out. It's carved out. Now it's just in my hands to say yes to all of the things that I want, or to just say no and keep operating from a space that makes me completely miserable. So that's all. I just randomly had to make this video, and I had to say that. So I hope these words have found you with the most clarity. Subscribe to my newsletter. Find me on Instagram, click the link in my bio, and subscribe to Seeds, the newsletter. I just launched it, but I feel like I've been doing it forever, because I always knew that I wanted to write something. I always wanted a blog, but right now it's not in my budget to create a website right now. So I had to like find a way to make it work. So I'm like blogging basically through newsletters. And my boyfriend is in school for tech, so he's like, just wait on it. I'm gonna make you a website. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna wait on it. So I'm like gonna hold him to that. He's gonna make me a website in divine timing. Like, I don't need the website right now. I'm going to have the website exactly when I need it. So yes, that's how you can subscribe to the newsletter. Anything else? Any final remarks? Subscribe to the newsletter. Subscribe to the newsletter, because there's some good things in there. There will be some good things, a lot of good things. That's all for now.